going live here. Let's see. And we are live. Hi, everyone. Donny here with the Wednesday live broadcast. As usual, every Wednesday, 2:30 Swedish, I go live on LinkedIn with either a cool person and or a cool idea, and just to see what we can learn about what's going on in the world, meeting some good friends. And that's why I'm here today, with meeting Carl Hasselskog.
Glad to be here.
Happy to be here. I mean, I'm actually in your offices today in Stockholm. And Carl and I, we've actually known each other since way back. I think it's like 15 years or something, if we go back to when we, but we're here not to talk about our wonderful friendship, which we can do as well. But I mean, we're actually here to talk about the startup, Degoo. Is it still a startup?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's still a startup.
As long as it's growing fast.
Yeah, but is it 8 years in the game now?
Yeah, pretty much. I think 9 years full time.
9 years full time. So, okay, well, let's just start by saying hi to the world, Carl Hasselskog, and just tell us what is Degoo? So,
should I start by saying how it started or what it is right now?
Just give me just tell me the short picture of what it is now, and then we can sort of go back to how it started.
Yeah. So right now we're the cloud storage that focuses on your memories.
Okay.
So just storing your files has very little value. The value doesn't come from the files; it comes from the experience.
Yeah.
So we help you re-experience your memories. We don't just store your files.
Okay.
Let's say on your phone, you typically have 5,000 photos.
Yeah.
But 1,000 or 2,000 of them are of receipts or screenshots or blurry. So there are tons of photos that are not very good, which means you don't look at them, because when you open your photo app, it's pretty boring.
Yeah.
Whereas if you open Instagram, it's fun immediately. But when you close Instagram, you feel jealousy because you experience everyone else's highlights,
of course,
not your own.
Yeah.
And we built an Instagram feed for your own content. So you experience your own highlights instead of your friends' highlights. So instead of feeling jealousy, you feel gratitude. And instead of seeing that party you weren't invited to, you remember that party that you forgot about 3 years ago.
Okay, so I sort of access my cloud storage with an Instagram-like feed, and that's how I can experience my photos and memories.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, compared to say Dropbox and Google Drive, our users use that much more.
Yeah.
Since you re-experience it, you re-engage with it, whereas with Dropbox, you just leave it there. So we can monetize this with ads. So just like Instagram, we have ads in that feed.
Okay, and you also offer the storage.
Yes.
And that's sort of kind of how it all started.
Exactly. That's how it started.
Yeah.
So getting to this point has been sort of a long journey of realizing the true value of storage. That is the experience. So we started off just with the storage.
Yeah.
And now, thanks to the beginning, we can offer 100 gigs for free now.
100 gigs for free.
Yeah.
Okay. But okay, and then just correct me if I'm wrong here. It started once upon a time. Carl was doing master's thesis work on peer-to-peer storage.
Yeah.
What is that? What is the concept of that?
Usually, if you've seen the series Silicon Valley on HBO, it's like Pied Piper.
Okay.
So in exchange for sharing your own.
So you are actually
I haven't thrown up during a pitch meeting.
Okay.
That's the only difference.
Okay.
So what you get is that in exchange for sharing your own hard drive space, you get free cloud storage on other people's computers. And that is a technically very challenging thing to do reliably, because other people's computers are unreliable. So you want to make sure they can't access your files, and you want to make sure that you can always access your files even if they shut down their computers.
Yeah, so it's such as one. It's not just so peer-to-peer storage is not storing your content on a server somewhere. It's actually storing on other people's computers.
Yes.
Okay, and so then you need to ensure that there are enough computers online with your content, so it's always accessible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was super technically challenging. Which, when you're doing a startup, it's sort of a good thing that you want it to be hard, because then you have a moat. Then it's hard to others to use to copy you.
Yeah.
So that was not the issue. But the issue with peer-to-peer storage was that once we got off the ground around 2013, 14, that's when mobile really started growing quickly. Yeah. And with mobile, the downside of peer-to-peer is bigger because it uses your
of course, you can't, storing on people's phones doesn't work. Okay, yeah.
So the downside of peer-to-peer became bigger, and the upside became smaller because AWS was cutting and Google was cutting the prices of storage dramatically. Yeah. So when we started off, we charged about 14 cents per gigabyte a month, and now it's 0.1. So it's 100x reduction in the price of cloud storage.
Yeah. So, but that was a big shift, though, because I know that I've not only known you from before, but I also was, I followed you from the sidelines as you were starting up in the early stages of building the first concept. And I remember that it was a very strong selling point with the price of storage then, because because everybody it was only computers back then, more or less, and everything was stored on your computer on a USB drive or in the cloud. Yeah. And then that was your first sort of focus on fixing when you started out. And that took you 2 years? How long did you actually work on?
Yeah, several years. So the initial idea was actually from 2006.
Yeah.
So I chose my specialization at KTH because of this. So I first spent a couple of years learning about distributed systems. Yeah. And then was my math thesis in 2009. Then I needed to save up some money so I could do it full time. So I worked weekends with it, nights and weekends. And then 2011, then started full time. And then in 2013, we launched it.
Yeah.
So it took many years to build that. And
as a lot of code. I know you and was it Matthias?
Yes.
Yeah. You spent a lot of time coding.
Yeah, a lot of time.
But you solved it.
Yeah, we solved it. The problem was that solving it was not that big a deal once we were done. Yeah. And I think that's one of the key learnings from this journey has been that, with innovation, you need to build something obviously that's unique, and that's good, and it solves a problem, and it has to be hard to copy so you don't get competitors. But in tech, you also need a business model that benefits from Moore's law. When innovation happens in the industry, your business model should get better, not worse.
Yeah.
So you should not bet on price of storage or computing staying the same or going up. No. You should always bet on it going down, because it will.
But I think that you mentioned Moore's law, but I think that in any sort of tech, evolving sector, you have that kind of mechanism where that initially it's expensive, built by engineers, and then it becomes democratized and it's cheaper, and then but that's a traditional innovation circle of you go from radical innovation to sustaining innovation and efficiency of innovation, and then so the prices go down, and that's that's a very good point. I think you stressed another point, which we didn't stress it, but you said it, that once you'd built it, you actually maybe you didn't realize it then, but once you'd built it, the realization that, well, this wasn't that wasn't the big thing suddenly, because it's getting it out there and packaging it and meeting a need. Yeah. And I see that a lot of time when, I have this expression when, when I said, don't wait for tech, because, people are constantly waiting when the app is done, when the tech is done, it will save everything. Everything will start working. Yeah. But, it's not so easy. You need the tech, but that's halfway. Then you just have something to work with. That's when it starts. Yeah. But how did you get off the ground? I know that you're working with a couple of brands, and I know that in combination, the brands you have 100 million users today.
Yes,
that's a crazy number. And you're 100,000 per day?
Yeah, so more than 1 per second.
That's more than 99% of all the services get in a lifetime. But anyway, how did you get started with actually, this scaling thing? How did you Because I mean, usually the first 10, 20, 30, 50,000 are like the hardest. So, but how did you get started? How did you get going?
So I think in general, I view startups as it's an optimization problem, where you're trying to find your own hill, which is your niche, and then you need to climb it.
Yeah.
And like there are two things that need to be true when you're climbing a hill. Like your nose needs to point in the right direction, and then you need to keep on going.
Yeah.
And so you need to make sure that every day you're doing something that adds as much value as possible, and then you need to have the perseverance to give up.
Sounds a lot like Sisyphus, this pushing a stone up a hill.
Yeah, it is a lot like that. And like when I started, I thought of it was like, when you go to a climbing center and you do boulder climbing like 10 meters, really steep, and then you're done. Like once the app is done, then all problems are solved. But it's more like climbing Mount Everest. Like each step is not that hard, but there are a lot of steps.
Yeah.
And you need to keep on going, and you're running out of oxygen, and you keep on going.
Yeah.
And you need to be very analytical. And I think the most important thing is not necessarily how many hours you work in a day, but what you do with each hour, and whether it adds value or not to your customers. So as an example, probably took 3 or 4 years before we even printed business cards.
Yeah.
Because we asked ourselves, okay, do we get more users from having business cards? Probably not. So like we had to prioritize everything. And so we only did things that we thought, okay, this will add this many users because they will tell their friends, or they will not uninstall, or what have you. So every decision went through that prism of like how many more users will use the app if we do this.
And did you have the experience of this decision wasn't the good thing? I mean, do you have any? You didn't only make right decisions.
Yeah, no, obviously, and that's the assumption. Like Matthias, he's a big F1 Formula One fan, and we had a quote from I think it was Andretti or some Formula One driver was saying that if everything is under control, you're not going fast enough.
Yeah.
And the same thing with decision making. Like if all your decisions are correct, you're not bold enough.
Yeah.
Like
that's it. That's another interesting statement, because I've heard that from some really strong innovative in corporate innovation, when they're saying that if we have a fail rate which is too low, it means that we are not taking enough risk.
Yeah.
We need to. So, but then there's a balance there, of course. I mean, you can't just go completely.
No, you can't be stupid on purpose.
On purpose, exactly.
So, but there's like you need to take risk, but you need to take the right risk.
Yeah. Like, so how did you get the first 100,000 users? I mean, if anything you can sort of say that we did this and that worked, or
well, there are a couple of like tactical things you can do. Like you can get started. Like the first couple of thousand, you can actually just buy from Google. It's not that expensive, just to get some data, to get it going. And then you need to be sort of fanatical about every detail. Like if you're in an app, for instance, like the icon, the title, like every step of the onboarding, getting people to tell their friends on your website, SEOs. There's no silver bullet. A lot of lead bullets.
Yeah.
And I remember from my class when we were doing numerical methods at KTH that in that class, basically you're solving a lot of optimization problems, and you can do an analytical approach, which means you have a function and you find a derivative and you find the optimal solution, but that almost never works because like with enough variables, it's impossible to solve it analytically. So you do it numerically, and that means you're testing small changes and see whether it goes up or down.
Yeah.
And that's the approach really to this as well, that you need to do lots of testing and just do it fast. It's a question of how many tests you do.
And that's another thing, that the number of tests. I think Jeff Bezos of Amazon said, it's the number of experiments that we do. And I think that this is a really good example of everything that we talk about. I mean, you've actually done it. We're not just talking about stuff. For anybody tuning in now, my name is Donny. This is my Wednesday live broadcast. I'm here today with Carl Hasselskog, the CEO of Degoo, a online storage saving your memories. Today it is saving your memories. And you were actually voted the #1 productivity app by Samsung 2019, which was also a huge. I mean, wow, that was great. That was fun. And you were like on stage, and it was a big celebration and everything.
Yeah, we went to San Jose. And
well, congratulations, well done. It's cool. I mean, it's tremendously inspiring to have followed the sidelines. I mean, I remember going to a previous office downtown Stockholm when you actually had the 1 million countdown, and I don't know how you managed to time it, but when we were there in the backyard, we actually passed 1 million users on the counter, which was magic.
That was fun. I can share the trick we did. Was that so we knew how many users we were getting per day.
Yeah.
So when we invited people to the Facebook event, we could sort of extrapolate, saying, okay, we think we're going to get it this day.
Yeah.
So we could know pretty well which day we were going to get it, and then in the last week before, we tweaked it by purchasing users from Google. So we saw, okay, now we're going too fast. Now we do purchase less. And we did it like hour by hour, but last 2 weeks, just tweaking those ads. So we had organic growth, and then the paid growth was like this because it had to be perfect.
But I mean, it's fun. But at the same time, I mean, everything that you're talking about it's incredible attention to detail. And what impresses me is that, okay, so some people talk about A/B testing when they're doing like, oh, we have like 2 Facebook ads or 3 with a slightly different, rhetorics or wording, and then we see which one goes best, and then but it feels like you've taken that to a whole new level of, attention to detail and actually sort of measuring everything, and just total focus on what drives growth.
Yeah, and you need like a culture of it, and a big change for me personally was that when Matthias and I started, it was just him and I, and we were just coding. That's it. But now we're a team of 15 amazing people, and my role is quite different. When you have 15 people, I can't code all day, and then you need a culture of testing and of innovation, and it's. I think you need to be very deliberate with that, because you need to tell everyone, like, if you make a test and it fails, that's not a problem. But if you don't make any test, that's a problem. So you need a culture where, like, even if a test that fails is actually better than one that doesn't say anything at all, because then you get a learning. Okay, this is where what the user cares about, obviously. But so I think that's really important to have in your culture, that you encourage people to try and test.
That's another. I mean, we're just bringing them on. Perfect. If anybody has any questions, by the way, ask us questions. We can see your comments here in the feed. So if you have any questions live for Carl or us, just send them in. Otherwise, keep the likes coming. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching and giving us likes. So do you miss coding, or have you gone back to playing computer games again? Because Carl is actually the previous world champion of NHL.
Yes.
Right?
Before you could make tons of money from esports.
Okay, of course.
It's probably a good thing. I would probably be standing here if I could be making money off of esports. But
okay, but now are you going back to esports again now that everybody else is coding for you, or what do you do today?
No, I'm like the old grandpa that talks about how it was better in the good old days. So now
you remember the computer games of exactly. Yeah.
So now I don't play them as I try to code as much as I can. Because I really enjoy it. And it's good because I think it's important to stay on top and understand things. And just as an example, AWS has 168 services. So when you build something and you have a toolbox of 168 different tools, you need to be aware of at least a fairly large number of them in order to be productive. Because one of those tools might solve your problem entirely, and you don't even have to build it. So I think in my role, it's important to stay up to date and just be sure that we're building things in the most efficient way possible. In order for me to do that, I have to keep on coding. I have to stay on top.
Fascinating stuff. I mean, truly fascinating. So what's the the coming future here now? For what do you see the coming 6-12 months? What's gonna?
So our vision with the Degoo is that we want to be the camera that you never have to take out of your pocket. And what I mean by that is that when you go to lots of events, and we see in our usage that people take a fair amount of photos, but it's not the same as Instagram. Like with Instagram, you have hundreds of photos you can look at every day. but you don't take hundreds of photos every day. So we need more content to make it even more engaging. The obvious way to do that is to find other photos from the events you've experienced. If you go to a soccer game or a concert, maybe you take 3 photos from that concert and they're all blurry because you were dancing while you were taking them. But there are hundreds of amazing photos on Flickr, on Twitter, on Snapchat. So we want to build an experience around your memories. So
I can re-experience the same situation using other people's content.
Exactly.
Okay.
And from other Degoo users, from your friends, we can come up with suggestions and even recommend other concepts you want to go to. So basically, we want to build a social network that is about your best moments and not about what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
So when next time you experience a sunset, experience it. Like maybe you can take a photo, but you don't have to post it on Instagram.
Yeah.
But then when it's November and it's cold outside, then you look at it. And then you can talk with your friends, because the photo is much more valuable the older it gets. So we're going to build a social network for your memories.
Cool. Okay, well, that's 9 years into the game, with a number of small pivots, but still climbing the hill. I would, even though I know that you are the world champion of computer games, I will now crown you the Olympic gold medalist of incremental testing and continuously experimenting on what works and with the laser focus. And I can just congratulate you on all the success so far.
Thank you.
And I'm really looking forward to following you. The rest of the way. And it's really cool to hear the whole story. And I hope that everybody out there just look into Carl and check out the Degoo, follow them on LinkedIn. And I'm sure that if there's anybody that wants to ask any questions regarding testing or something, you can reach out to me, and I can reach out to Carl about it.
I'd be happy to answer any question.
Sure. With that, I will say thank you very much, Carl.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me here today, and thank you everyone for watching. Next week, Wednesday, same time, not the same place. We don't know yet, but thank you all, and goodbye for today.